Please make sure that you have your copy of the assignment Model Electron Configuration. What I'm going to do is go through step-by-step the procedures on how to begin setting up and constructing a model that we're going to hang on your periodic ceiling of the elements, and use the models to look for certain features of the electron configurations that are related to the reactivity of elements, how they combine to form compounds, trends in the properties of the elements that are mapped out in the periodic table. Make sure that you also have a periodic table of the elements. You know, the periodic table is a map of electron configurations. It tells a story of how elements combine and their properties. It also tells a story of how they were formed. That's for another time. So, first step. There's a periodic table on the side wall in the classroom, and there are post-it notes on some of the elements. What you'll do is work with the partner and choose one element to work with, and then put your name on it. So I'm going to put mine right here, my name. Don't write my name, write your name and your partner's name, and leave it there so that nobody else does your element. Make sure that you know what that element was, and then look on your periodic table, check to make sure that you know the element's name and symbol and how many electrons it has by looking at the atomic number. Mine was iron, number 26, with 26 electrons. And then we'll write the electron configuration. The next step is to write the electron configuration for your element. I'll do mine as an example. Iron, which has 26 electrons, and if I use the orbital filling diagram as my guide, I'll write out the electron configuration filling each orbital with 2 electrons before I move to the next set of electron orbitals at the next energy level or the next orbital type S, P, D, or F. So the first 2 electrons are going to go into a 1s orbital. It can hold as many as 2 electrons, and so 1s2 is my first orbital. And the second electron orbital, 2s, there's 1 orbital at that level, and I can have 2 electrons, so 2s2. The next level is 2p. There are 3 electron orbitals at that level, so I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 electrons, 2p6. And then the next orbital is 3s. There's 1 orbital, and I can have 2 electrons, 3s2. Then 3p orbitals, there are 3 of them. And then I can put the next electrons in those electron orbitals, 3p6. And then 4s, there's 1 of those orbitals with 2 electrons, 4s2. And then finally the 3d electrons. 3d, there are 5 electron orbitals. And I have 6 electrons left, because I've already used 20 up to this point. So I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 electrons, 3d6. So this is my electron configuration, and when I look at the electron configuration, it's going to tell me which orbitals I'm going to put in my model. The next step you can try yourself with your electron configuration. Write your electron configuration for your element, do yours here, and then have that checked by your instructor. Whoa, with the focus. Okay, once you've filled out your electron configuration, then you're ready for step number 3. Follow these steps. You're going to go to the supply table where you'll see these materials. They're color-coded. We're going to put a color-coded key on the big periodic table on the side wall in your room. So go to the supply table, get a post-it note and a Sharpie marker. Now, we're going to write the last orbital from the electron configuration on the post-it note. So here's my electron configuration. My last orbital was 3d6. When I go to get the post-it note, I'm going to choose the color based on my last orbital. So if it was an s orbital ending, I'll use pink. If it was a p orbital ending, I'll use green. If it was d, like mine, I'll use yellow. If it's f, use blue. So I'm going to get a yellow one, and I'm going to write my 3d6, real big on here, 3d6, and then I'm going to go and put that over on the board, over on the periodic table on my element, so that we can look for the pattern that emerges when we look at all of the electron configuration endings. Step number 4 says that there are some cards that look like the diagram that's below that I'm talking about. Looks like this right here. There's some cards also on the supply table. What we'll do is we'll take one of these and write your electron configuration on it. And again, with the big last electron orbital, you can practice doing that in the diagram below and check it with your instructor to make sure that you did it correctly. And after you've written it out on your little card, then you can get a matching index card, the same color that you used before, pink for S, green for P, yellow for D, and blue for F orbital endings. Get one of the cards and staple yours on there, and we'll use that when we hang your model up on the periodic ceiling. We'll know where yours is. On the back you can put your name. Don't write your name, write your name. All right. Okay, in just a second, you're going to go back to the lab benches to go shopping for electron orbitals. But before you do, let's make sure that you know how many orbitals to get. I wrote my electron configuration here underneath the orbital filling diagram. And check to make sure that you see how many orbitals actually have electrons. Here, there's only one orbital. There's one here, 3, 1, 3, 1, and 5 electron orbitals. That's how many orbitals you're going to go to get back at the lab benches of each type. So back at the lab benches, you'll find on the trays a bunch of orbitals already labeled, and take how many you need. Take 1 or 3 or 5 or however many you need of each type, and put them in a baggie, and then you can take those back to your desk. Okay, I went shopping for orbitals back at the lab bench. I went and I got one 1s orbital, which holds 2 electrons. I got 3 2p orbitals, each holds 2 electrons for a total of 6. I got one 2s orbital, which holds 2 electrons. And I got a 3s orbital, and so on. Now, you can see that they all have lines on there for cutting out. So what you'll do next is you'll cut out all of the orbitals that you got. And, you know, one way to make it easier is if you stack up all the orbitals that are the same kind, you can cut them all out at once. After you've cut them out, there's a little dot in the middle, and you can use the tip of your scissors just to poke a little hole through there, not too big, because what we're going to do is string these up on a wire to make a mobile to hang from your periodic ceiling of the elements. Now that you've figured out your electron configuration and you've gotten the appropriate orbitals, you're ready to start assembling your model. So what you'll need is your card. It's color-coded to show your orbital ending configuration. And you'll need some little straws. You can put those in your baggie. And you'll also need a length of wire. So what you can do is you can twist the length of wire through the hole. Just twist it around a little bit, like so. And then we're going to put a straw on. The straws act as spacers. So I'll put the straw on first, and then we'll put on the orbitals. We'll put the orbitals on in order of increasing energy, starting with the lowest energy level, the 2s orbital. I'll put that one on, the 1s orbital. I'll put that one on first. Got a pretty long piece of wire here. Maybe I should have cut that shorter. So first I'll put on the 1s orbital. And then I'm going to put on a straw to represent the change in energy. There's a discrete energy level jump from the first energy level to the second energy level. So then after the first energy level, I'll put the second electron orbital, 2s, and then I'll put a straw to show that jump in energy. And then I'll put the 3p orbitals. Now each of these electron orbitals is at the same energy level, so I'm not going to separate them with straws. They are at the same level, but they're oriented in different directions in three-dimensional space, so we can keep them at the same level in our model. And then I'll put a straw on after to separate it from the next energy level. So after the 2p comes the 3s, and so on. And then the 3p, and I'll keep on going until I've used them all, and I'll put them down all the way to the end of my model. And then when you've gotten that done, then you can take your model to your instructor, and your instructor will get the wire to the correct length to be hung up on the periodic table. When it's all finished, the one that I'm making here looks like so. And we'll be able to use these to observe some patterns in the electron configurations of the elements. For example, which are the biggest or outermost electron orbitals? In this model right here, you can clearly see that this is the biggest electron orbital. It's a 4s orbital. Those are the electrons that are involved in chemical reactions. Chemical reactions happen because of electrons. Chemistry is really a lot about the electrons, and we can tell something about the properties of the elements by which are their outer electrons, how many inner electrons they have, and how they're arranged. So when you're all done, make sure that on the periodic table in your room that you've put your little tag. Make sure that you use the correct color code for S, P, D, or F, and that you put the orbital ending. Make sure that when you use the card for your electron configuration, that you chose the correct color for S, P, D, or F, and that you attach that at the base of your model, and then string up your electron orbitals from lowest energy to highest energy, and then we'll get it hung up on the periodic ceiling of the elements.